G'day guys, how you going? Hope you're all having a fantastic whatever time it is in your part of the world. If you're Australian, then it's evening, so I hope you're all having a great evening. Tonight I'm going to be doing a movie review. Now this movie is German, so it's spoken in the German language, which means you're going to have to read English subtitles if you don't know the language. So I'm sorry for those of you who don't like that, but you know by now that the majority of my films are of the foreign nature. So it's a German-speaking film. It was made in 2004, directed by my favourite director of all time from Germany, Oliver Hirschbergel. Now he also directed another film called Das Experiment, which I'm going to review in the very near future, but this was a film that came 3 years after that one. And this is called Downfall. Now, if you're going to get this film, I highly suggest you get the 2-disc collector's edition. It's got hours of bonus material, so it's definitely one that is well worth it. So, if you can, get the Hopscotch collector's 2-disc edition. So, if you haven't been able to tell by now, seeing that picture, it is about Adolf Hitler. Now, the story is as follows. An Academy Award nominee for Best Foreign Language Film and a worldwide success, Downfall looks at the last fortnight of Adolf Hitler's life. His inner circle, Eva Braun, Joseph and Magda Goebbels, Himmler, Speer, and the chaos of a country coming apart at the seams. Shifting from the bizarre atmosphere in Hitler's concrete bunker in April 1945 as the Allies advance on Berlin and the Third Reich crumbles. And with the hopeless war raging above as civilians and soldiers fight on the streets as the Soviet army turns the city into a pile of rubble. Not so much a Hitler movie, Downfall is a portrait of a totalitarian machine's spiritual and emotional collapse. Based on the recent bestsellers including Until the Final Hour, the personal account of Hitler's secretary Traude Junge, director Oliver Hirschbergel's recreation of a war-torn Berlin is massive and convincing, including meticulous design and stunning cinematography. The acting is exemplary, and Bruno Ganz, who plays Hitler, makes the role startlingly real, creating a believable tyrant, crazy, murderous, and seductive, yet oozing a strange kindness to some that makes his deadly, hateful rages all the more chilling. Downfall puts the dark past in the vivid presence, tense, and it makes it resident anew. An extraordinary, gripping, and important work. Downfall succeeds in saying so much not only about the horrors of the 20th century, but about the human nature as well. So this film is a look at the Third Reich's last days. It's the last fortnight in Adolf Hitler's life before he took his own life. He's in his bunker. The Soviet Union are taking over Berlin. Defeat is imminent, and it's just inevitable. But the only person who is not coming to terms with this defeat is Hitler. And he is very, very stubborn. He's not going to let anyone surrender. He thinks that anyone surrendering is a traitor and will be shot. So he's basically forcing his inner circle, which is his family and his closest allies and soldiers. He's basically forcing them to fight to the last person, and Hitler's willing to sacrifice any civilian as well. So it shows that he didn't have much love for the German civilians. So it's a very, very disturbing look. The whole thing is pretty much set in the bunker, and slowly but surely, each and every one, and even Hitler towards the end, they resign to defeat, and the only way that they see that they can get out of this with honor is to kill themselves. So, very, very powerful movie, this one. Now, my thoughts on it. You get movies like Valkyrie, which is about Nazis, and you have them speaking with American accents, and it's basically not telling you so much about the Third Reich. That was just telling you from a Hollywood perspective of good guys in the Third Reich defeating the bad guys. And no real war film has given you an insight into the mentality of the Third Reich and the Nazis. So this is the first real film that I have seen that tells it from the perspective of the enemy. And that's what makes it so real and just absolutely fantastic. It's spoken in German, so it gives you a very real, authentic feel. It's not, stupid actors playing German soldiers with American accents. That's just not real, and it takes me completely out of it. So this one being in the native language, it really does have a sense of realism. The acting is absolutely incredible. I'm not going to say this lightly. Bruno Ganz, who plays Adolf Hitler, the best performance I have ever seen in my life to date. There's a lot of YouTube parodies about his performance, about him getting angry at Xbox or this and that. Very, very silly stuff, and I really think that his performance deserved a lot more respect, not to be known for the parodies, because all those parodies are based on his performance in this film. Absolutely incredible. He played him to absolute perfection. He played a very he's an absolute maniac, as we all know, disgusting human being who never deserved life in the first place. But he also has a sense of compassion, and he does have likable qualities. Now, I know that's a shocking thing to say, but I always used to think, how could anyone follow Hitler? Why would anyone want to die for Hitler? And you don't really get that perspective and that sort of mindset from Hollywood films, because we paint him as a heartless, soulless sort of monster who just kills, kills, kills. And it kind of leaves the door open as to why he had followers, why people were trying to, would sacrifice themselves for such a maniac. And this film really documents that. It shows the actual film is based on the bestsellers from Adolf Hitler's real life secretary, who was actually in the bunker at the time. So once again, more authentic. It's, it's a lot more authentic in that way as well. So what goes down inside this bunker is very real. So anyway, Traudie Junge, who was 20 years old at the time, she saw Hitler as a father. And you can really see why, because Hitler was a completely different person to those around him and those that he loved. He could feel compassion, and he came across as a father figure. So what the most heartbreaking and tragic thing about this whole thing is that these people that Hitler was close to, they weren't aware of the full extent as what Hitler was doing. So we can't really label everyone who followed Hitler as evil. We can just label them as not knowing just exactly what this lunatic was doing. So this gives you a real insight as to why someone would want to sacrifice for this guy. And it also paints Adolf Hitler as the person he was, a gutless, spineless little sad man. Now, a lot of people say this is a Nazi sympathizing film. I do not agree with that at all, and I think you are completely missing the point if you say that. It's just telling a story of the war through different eyes. And I know it's a very uncomfortable subject to be talking about Hitler, and I think Oliver Hirschberg did a very courageous thing in making this film, and I absolutely applaud him for that, and that's why he's become one of my favourite directors. This is the best war film to date. It says on the back, extraordinary. Downfall is indeed a masterpiece of historical accuracy and cinematic drama. One of the best war movies ever made. Downfall is powerful and artistically masterful, as close to what really happened as we will ever see on celluloid. Monumental, compulsory viewing in the same class as Schindler's List and The Pianist. I actually enjoy this film a lot more than them. It is very, very depressing, so just be careful. You're not going to get a happy film in this one. The whole mood inside this bunker is very scared. Everyone's scared, and even Hitler's scared, but he has to have this put this shield on that shows that he is not scared at all. But you can tell he died a very, very scared little man. And it doesn't paint Hitler as a sympathetic character. It paints the whole situation as sympathetic, because all those people were willing to sacrifice themselves for what they believed was a good person. But in reality, they were sacrificing themselves for a person that didn't even deserve to be loved. So, a very, very different film. The cinematography is absolutely brilliant. It's a very dark sort of film, but at the same time doesn't rely on really dark colours. It's just a very downbeat, hardly any soundtrack, and it's just a film that is just delaying the inevitable. You know what's going to happen at the end. They know what's going to happen at the end, and it's just only a matter of time. It's not a matter of if it will happen, it's a matter of when it will happen. So definitely a film that was absolutely brilliant, one of the best movies ever made in my opinion. It's a compulsory viewing for any person who likes war films. I think this is very, very important because, as I said, it tells a story about the war through the enemy's eyes. And for me, to understand evil, to fight evil, you have to understand evil. And this one will go a long way into understanding how someone would follow a guy like this. And, at the same time, very, very scary. This guy, this Hitler, he comes across as a likable sort of person, but then you've got to stop and think, hang on, this guy murdered millions and millions of people. And you kind of feel bad for feeling sorry for the whole situation, but it's just the way it's told. And I can understand how people will say it's a Hitler sympathizing film, but it's definitely not like that. And if you're one of my, if you're watching this video and you're one of those dropkicks who call me a Nazi and you think about doing it again, well, you know, don't even bother, because I'm not sympathising for the Nazis. I'm just applauding a very, very well-made film. So I highly recommend you go out and see it. The acting, as I said, Bruno Gunn's incredible. The support cast were awesome. Everything about this movie is absolutely flawless. I can't pick out a criticism with this at all. This is an absolute must, compulsory viewing for any war fan or fan of the war films, and you want to see something a little bit different that paints Hitler not in a good way, but paints Hitler in a very, very real way. Now, you know, as much as we want to deny it, Hitler was a human being, which makes it even scarier. It wasn't just some guy from out of space that just dropped down and just kill, kill, kill. It just shows you how psychotic a human being can be, and how destructive one single person can be. So it is a very, very important film to watch. To defeat evil, you have to understand it, and this one will go a long way into giving you some insight in the enemy. So definitely a film worth getting. Alright guys, that's it. That was a fairly long review, so I better shut up, and yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you later. Bye.